Globalization of world trade and relationship between USA and China. The globalization of world trade has significantly reshaped international relationships, notably between major economic powers like the USA and China. Their relationship is complex, encompassing competition, interdependence, and cooperation, and is pivotal in the global economic and political landscape. Historical context and evolution. Economic engagement post-1970s. Following China's economic reforms and opening up policy, the USA and China began to engage economically, leading to a rapid increase in trade and investment flows. China's entry into the World Trade Organization WTO in 2001 marked a significant milestone, further integrating it into the global economy and expanding trade relations with the USA. Manufacturing and exports. China's role as a world factory made it a major exporter of goods to the USA, while the USA exported services and advanced technology to China. Supply chains. The two economies became intertwined, with complex supply chains, indicating deep economic interdependence. Economic interdependence. Trade volume. The USA and China are each other's largest trading partners, with immense trade volumes in goods and services. Investments. There's substantial cross-investment, with American companies heavily invested in China and Chinese investment growing in the USA. Interlinked supply chains. Many American and Chinese businesses are deeply integrated, relying on each other for parts, products, and markets. Points of tension. Trade imbalances. The USA's significant trade deficit with China has been a point of contention, viewed by some in the USA as harmful to its economic interests. Intellectual property and technology transfer. The USA has raised concerns over intellectual property protection and forced technology transfers in China. National security concerns issues like cybersecurity and the role of Chinese technology firms in global markets, including the USA, have raised security concerns. Geopolitical rivalry beyond trade. The USA and China are seen as strategic competitors, with diverging interests in regional security, human rights, and global governance. Cooperation and conflict. Bilateral agreements. Despite tensions, both countries have periodically negotiated agreements to address trade issues and attempted to stabilize relations. Global challenges. Climate change, global health, as seen during the COVID-19 pandemic, and financial stability are areas where the USA and China's cooperation is crucial globally. Trade wars. Periods of heightened tension have led to trade wars, characterized by the imposition of tariffs and retaliatory measures. The impact of globalization. Supply chain resilience. Globalization, as evidenced in the US-China relationship, has led to discussions on supply chain resilience and diversification. Global economic stability. The interdependence between the USA and China plays a significant role in global economic stability. Tensions or cooperation between these two economies can have worldwide implications. Shifting production bases. Globalization has facilitated the movement of production, with Southeast Asia and other regions becoming alternative manufacturing hubs in light of US-China tensions. Future outlook. Decoupling. This engagement debates continue on whether there should be a decoupling of the US and Chinese economies, or a deeper engagement balancing competition with cooperation. Technology and innovation leadership. A key area of competition is in high-tech and innovation, including AI, 5G, and renewable energy. Global governance and rules-based order. How the USA and China interact within international institutions and abide by global trade rules will shape future globalization trends. In conclusion, the relationship between the USA and China within the context of globalization of world trade is a defining element of the 21st century global economic and geopolitical order. It's characterized by a dynamic mix of competition and cooperation with significant implications, not just for these two countries, but for the entire global community. D. The globalization of world trade, a complex and multifaceted phenomenon, has significantly impacted the global economy, countries, industries, and individuals. It encompasses a range of developments, including increased trade flows, the emergence of multinational corporations, advancements in technology, and policy reforms aimed at reducing trade barriers. Increased trade flows. Globalization has led to a significant increase in international trade. Countries are more interconnected through the exchange of goods and services. For instance, developed countries often import goods from countries where production costs are lower, while exporting high-value goods and services. Economic growth and development for many countries, especially developing ones. Globalization has been a key driver of economic growth. Access to larger markets has enabled these countries to increase their export revenues, attract foreign investments, and experience rapid economic development. Rise of multinational corporations. Globalization has facilitated the expansion of companies beyond their domestic markets. These multinational corporations often play a significant role in the global economy, influencing trade patterns and investment flows. Technology advancement and innovation. The ease of information flow across borders, thanks to technological advancements, has been a significant aspect of globalization. This has enabled faster communication, efficient supply chain management, and the spread of technological innovation. Impact on employment. Globalization has had mixed impacts on employment. While it has created job opportunities in some sectors and regions, it has also led to job losses, particularly in industries exposed to international competition. This shift has also resulted in the demand for a more skilled workforce as technology becomes more integral to economic activities. Income disparity and inequality. Globalization has contributed to economic disparities, both between and within countries. While some countries and individuals have benefited immensely, others have not seen significant improvements, leading to increased inequality. Cultural exchange. Globalization has facilitated the exchange of cultural values, ideas, and commodities. This has led to greater cultural diversity in many parts of the world, but also concerns about cultural homogenization. Environmental impact. The increase in global trade and production has had environmental consequences, including higher carbon emissions, resource depletion, and greater waste generation. There is growing awareness and action to address these environmental costs. Political and policy responses. Governments worldwide have responded to the challenges and opportunities of globalization in various ways, including trade agreements, tariffs, and policies to protect domestic industries. There is also an increasing focus on sustainable and equitable trade practices. Interdependence and vulnerability. Globalization has led to increased economic interdependence among countries, which can be both beneficial and risky. The global financial crisis of 2008 and the recent COVID-19 pandemic have highlighted how interconnected the world economy is, and how disruptions in one part can have worldwide implications. In conclusion, globalization has brought significant benefits in terms of growth and development, but it also presents challenges like inequality, environmental degradation, and cultural impacts. The future trajectory of globalization will likely depend on how these challenges are addressed and how the balance between global integration and local interests is managed. D. The globalization of world trade has had a profound impact on South Korea, transforming it from a largely agrarian economy in the mid-20th century to an advanced, high-tech industrial powerhouse. This transition is a testament to the country's strategic embrace of globalization and its implications. Rapid economic growth. South Korea's economic growth is one of the most remarkable success stories in the global economy. Through globalization, it has shifted from a recipient of foreign aid to a major global trader and donor. Its entry into the world market was marked by the export of labor-intensive goods in the 1960s and 1970s, transitioning to heavy industries in the 1980s, and moving towards high-tech and service industries in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Exported growth strategy. A cornerstone of South Korea's economic Success has been its exportal growth strategy. By focusing on exporting goods to international markets, South Korea has achieved rapid economic development. Major conglomerates, known as chaebols like Samsung, Hyundai, and Eloy, have played a key role in this exportal growth, benefiting significantly from globalization, technological advancement, and innovation. South Korea has become a global leader in technology and innovation, primarily driven by its integration into the global market. This has led to the development of cutting-edge industries in fields like electronics, automobiles, shipbuilding, and telecommunications. Foreign investment and economic integration. The liberalization of South Korea's economy has attracted significant foreign investment. The country has actively participated in various international trade organizations and agreements, enhancing its integration into the global economy. Impacts on society and culture. Globalization has influenced South Korean society and culture. There has been a notable increase in cultural exchange, as seen in the global popularity of pop, Korean cinema, and Korean cuisine.
For the last 4 decades or so, globalization has powered the world economy. After the end of the Cold War, what really accelerated was the economic integration of big nations.
As I signed the North American Free Trade Agreement into law, we are ready to compete.
What made sense for businesses from a profit motive standpoint, from a cost and efficiency standpoint, was generally also supported by governments when it came to them developing really complicated supply chains around the world.
The more countries work together, the more their economies are linked, the more likely they are to be at peace with each other, and that therefore is good for the world.
We're clearly not on that path anymore. There's a lot of uncertainty about what is ahead.
So right now, the world economy is said to be at something of an inflection point.
It's a rethinking of globalization and to some extent of regionalization, and it changes everything.
We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis.
So in the years after the financial crisis, the conventional Western economic capitalist-led model came under a lot of scrutiny, given the impact that crisis had on ordinary people. And in 2016, we saw a vote for Brexit, an exit from the European Union in the UK, and the election of Donald Trump in the US. That, in extension, triggered a big trade war between China and the US. We've seen a global pandemic that has tested those global supply chains, and that has led a lot of countries to rethink offshoring production. We're seeing war in the Middle East. We are seeing coups in Africa. And those conflicts are leading people to question even more the benefits of globalization.
It was unprovoked, but this is what Russian President Vladimir Putin unleashed on Ukraine.
Explosions rocking several cities, including the capital of Kyiv.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine was a sort of crystallizing moment for people on both sides of this emerging divide in the global economy.
In 2022 at the United Nations, we had a series of votes over condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
This is illegal invasion. It is illegal occupation. It is illegal annexation, all at gunpoint.
Roughly 2/3 of the global economy, led by the United States, voted to condemn Russia. The remaining third, we saw countries either abstain or vote to reject any condemnation. We're seeing billions of dollars in investment in new factories that is now being guided by geopolitics rather than simply economics. And that is really seen when you dig down into the United Nations vote. In 2022, we saw $1.2 trillion in foreign direct investment in the world. We also saw $180 billion of that shift from the bloc that refused to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine to the US-led bloc condemning Russia's invasion. The International Monetary Fund found that if you had a full fracturing of the global economy, you would eliminate 7% of global GDP. That doesn't sound like much, but it is equivalent to wiping out the French and German economies together.
China remains, of course, the world's factory floor. It offers scale that no one else does. Sentiment towards investing there has turned quite negative in recent years.
But there's a whole network of global trade that is resting on the interrelationships that have developed between the US and China over the last 20 or 30 years. Many people refer to it as, unmaking the omelette. If you're an American company, you're still going to be very reliant on many things made in China for many years to come.
There is a group of economies who are navigating the middle of this geopolitical divide. You can call them the connector economies. They're not in the game of choosing sides. They're attracting factories from the US, factories from China, often located close by or in the same industrial park. They're importing from China, they're selling to the West, or vice versa.
They can take advantage of their neutrality to get benefits from both sides in this emerging rivalry.
In northern Vietnam, you can drive an hour from the Chinese border and into what was once a farm field with water buffaloes and banana trees. You're seeing big factories go up.
So với trước đây thì ngày xưa đây là một cái cánh đồng hoang dã. Bà con nông dân là cấy lúa. Thì bây giờ khu công nghiệp phát triển về đây thì đời sống bà con cũng đi lên.
Over the last 5 years, we've seen exports from Vietnam to the United States double. But at the same time, we've seen imports from China into Vietnam double as well. Places like Poland are now getting huge investment from China and South Korea, and even US chip makers as they set themselves up as a link between Europe and the rest of the world. We're also seeing places like Indonesia, which has vast natural resources, bring together Ford, the US automaker, and Chinese companies and Brazilian miners to exploit nickel mine to sell into China or to sell into the United States.
If you're a country like Morocco that has a free trade agreement with America and you already have also quite good relations with China, well, then obviously you're in a position to play both sides.
Mexico is perfectly placed to cash in on this so-called fragmentation. Sitting right on the US border, it's a textbook example of nearshoring, but Mexico is also attracting a lot of Chinese investment, and that's why it's able to straddle both sides of this divide.
Plenty of people talking about what says made in China can say in the future made in Mexico. And right now we got the potential, if we get our act together, to get all those consumer goods, electronic consumer goods that went into China to be manufactured in Mexico.
To be clear, these connector economies in some cases have a long way to go before they have the necessary infrastructure in place, motorways, ports, electricity networks. These are all key features that global manufacturers want and need. China, of course, has excelled at that for decades. These other economies are now trying to catch up.
We're at the very beginning of this story. The reality is we're not seeing the end of globalization, but we are seeing a reshaping of the global economy. It's an incredibly interlinked global economy that we live in.
Business will continue to be done. Money will continue to flow around the world. And even though there will be tensions at a government to government level, companies will look for a way around those political divides.
But how this happens and the direction we go in the years to come is really going to shape all of our